POV, I asked Google, Gemini, why it is that we are going to Venezuela. And, in my mind, I'm thinking, here are the reasons here. So I asked Gemini, how many months of heavy crude oil does Texas have in reserve? And it's letting me know that, Texas actually does not have any, this match here, doesn't have any, heavy crude. As a matter of fact, most of them, most of the oil there is light, and Texas actually refines it. Not just Texas, but I guess the South. So I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? If Texas were cut off from that, that would be a problem right there, That'd be an issue there. The heavy crude would only have days or weeks to rely on that because it requires that. Now, we're not talking about the reserve. There are some, yes. Here's a mismatch there, okay. I'm like, well, fine. You know what? Let me ask you more about this here. I am interested in that, what's going on with the mismatch. How does this mismatch go with what's going on with the, let's say, misunderstandings that we're having between Canada, Mexico, and ourselves? And let's throw in all of a sudden our drug issues with Venezuela. I'm sure this has nothing to do with it. I'm just wondering out loud to Gemini here. And Gemini's like, well, the issue is that most of these refineries really can handle heavy, and it's why we were building pipes down from Canada straight to make sure that Texas remains rich, because while a lot of states in that way are actually needing the federal government to give money, Texas is actually making enough money. It's sending money to the federal government, sending more money to the federal government than it takes in. Texas is one of the few red states that is a net giver. It's a contributor, okay, to the economy. So they definitely wanted to bully that, get that oil down so that way their businesses continue to make a boatload of money. Now, here are some of the issues here. There's the diesel issues. Yeah, sure. There's underutilization. But the thing I hadn't caught was the Meyer factor. Apparently, Mexico also cut off heavy crude. So right now, some Texas folks who are getting exactly what they want everywhere are going to be in a bit of a pickle because their most important sector is about to run out of all the juice they need, probably by middle of January or so. It's going to start hurting. And then by February, that sweet, not socialist discount that all of the South and gets on, some of the Midwest gets on gas, like that sweet discount is going to go away, and then people in those areas are going to have to pay what the rest of the country has to pay for gas. Because it's been subsidized. Because, every time in Texas, I look at the gas prices, I'm like, well, yeah, I'd drive a massive truck too if I was paying that kind of money for gas. Good Lord, right? And now, this is obviously just me thinking out loud, but I'm just saying, these things taken into account with the fact that if at the same time this happens, Venezuela utilizes its new partnerships with some of America's adversaries, specifically China, who would love some more of this heavy oil, and Russia, the other producer of heavy crude oil, also start leaving the petrodollar at the time where everyone is really kind of leaving the petrodollar. That's a really rough time for America to have that happen at the time when we can't get our friends to put pressure on Venezuela. This is the reason why America's goods are there, and it's not the typical thing we do when it's, hey, do this or else, and then magically it happens. The reason why America's hardware is there having to do it ourselves is because we no longer have the influence. No one wants to play with us anymore. I'm not saying this is true or not. I'm just saying it seems that way. That's why we're there. We're going to get our way, I think. But here's the danger that everyone is looking at this. This is kind of the Ukraine-Russia thing is. Venezuela does not need to win, does not even need a tie, doesn't even need to keep up with America's power. What it needs to do is make it a little bit tougher than America thought to take over and make it unreasonable and make America look bad. That's all they got to do. If they pull that off and America does not dominate within days, we're talking like within like 2 to 3 days, America's big stick is not going to be as scary to a lot of other countries that are going to be going, we're willing to find out. That's the problem is the more effing around people do, the more finding out other people are doing. And this is what happened with Russia is they went around effing around and the world watched and they found out. Now there's a lot of issues now Russia's going to have in their own neighborhood because a lot of areas that they were, pushing on, those folks are going, we might want to find out too, and that's the danger. It's slightly different here, but keep that in mind is that the political needs of the current administration also need to happen. We are definitely going to invade Venezuela. There's no other way. America does not move assets of this size, and we have to control this. And if we don't end up finding a way to control it and staying on top of that petrodollar, we're done. If we get a hold of this thing and the rest of the world is spooked, it doesn't really, it actually might be the move that kills it because then everyone's going to be like, how desperate are you? Like if we got to go there and keep people in Venezuela in a month from now, if we're still occupying Venezuela, the rest of the world will be quiet. They will be scared, but they will be back sharpening their axes. It's not a good look. So we got to be real careful here. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that that there is an asymmetrical situation between the United States and Venezuela. However, if we are not listening to professional soldiers during this conflict, I don't know if America will get its treasure from the amount of blood we're going to dedicate to this. What do I know? Anyway, thanks, Gemini, for answering some questions about oil.